Good afternoon, everyone. So I will be brief on this presentation. So we all know software, right? We have all heard about software, mobile applications, cloud applications, and all that. So in one way or the other, we have used the software on application before. So let's look at this. So software development is where we design application. So we look at what we want to achieve. We look at the outcome of whatever we're going to do. We look at coding it. We test and then we maintain the application. So it's not all about once you start, you just bring out anything or just start coding. You have to go through a lot of processes. So when you look at programming and software development, it's a different thing altogether. As we have to bring out different skill sets for you to be able to do the rest. So as you can see here, it's a systematic process of designing, coding, testing, and maintaining software application. So if you look at the designing aspect, you get some people in software development that are also designing applications. We have those who are writing the codes. We have those who are testing, and then all these things comes together. Okay. Then in digital era, so in our world now, everything is technology. And then there was a time during the COVID that I realized in Africa we are lacking behind. Okay, so I happened to work with an international school where they have these foreign students. So during COVID, a lot of them left to UK, US, and the rest. And then some of them were also in Ghana, but then couldn't come together together. So we were trying to get an application for us to have a virtual class. Okay, so we realized Microsoft, Google were trying to give out their softwares for schools to be able to do virtual class. But when we got to them, they told us no. It's only free for those out there, but if you're in Africa, you have to pay. So at that time, I realized we need to do a lot to help our country or in Africa. Because if you have a software that is improving on lives out there, and then we don't have it here, that is very bad. And then those who are behind these applications are all from Ghana. Some are from Nigeria and a lot of African countries. There was one time somebody brought a software to me that he wanted to build software like that. So they needed someone to be on the project. So a friend of mine wanted to do it for them. And then the CEO of the company was like, no, we don't like Africans. We want to outsource it towards outside people. But then, lo and behold, the person who designed that particular software happens to be my elder brother. So when I saw the design, I told the man, look, what you are trying to do is somebody who was in Africa doing the same thing you are trying to compete with them. So it's like we here in Africa, we look at things that come from Africa, and then we look down on them. These are the same people who go out there, build applications, and will be here using them and then pay. So whatever I say is that whilst we are here, we do need to also help and make the country very safe and then for everyone to use. So whilst we talk about software development, we use them to drive innovation. So as my previous speaker said, once you have an idea that you want to bring out there, these are innovation. Okay, and then the software that you see every day, they are not new things. So I can sit here and decide to, okay, I have an idea, I want to build an application. But somebody somewhere has done it already. But then it's up to me to look at the flaws, the weaknesses and all that, and try and improve upon that product. Then we enhance user experience. So sometimes we look at, let's say Facebook is not the first application that came like social media. Okay, there was another app. But if you look at Facebook, the user interface, that like how you interact with the app, was higher than the previous one. So people came to realize and accept Facebook than the other app. Not because the other app doesn't have what do you call it, features. They might have even better than Facebook, but because of the design, how you interact with the application, they were far gone. So global connectivity. So you can be here, you can have a software, you can chat with somebody out there, you can collaborate on it too. So one of the flexible jobs of a software developer is to be able to even be in Ghana and work in US, in other stuff. So, and then we use tools like Slack, Trello, and all that to collaborate. Once you write your code, you can push it to GitHub. Somebody somewhere can also write their own, push it, then you are moving forward. Then automation and efficiency. Now, if I want to do a task for let's say 5 minutes, I can do it for 5 minutes. But why do I go and sit down and say, okay, I have to write an application so that the application can do it for let's say 5 seconds? You are not thinking about now, you are thinking about the future. So I can do it now within 5 minutes and I'm done. But I have to improve on it by sitting down, coding, debugging, and making sure that the application is set. So once it's done, somebody somewhere can also come and use the application. Then it's within 5 seconds, you have one. Then data management. So gone were those days where you have to be writing on books, inside books and all that. These days, you can have a database with all these records stored in them. You can have backups of them. And then once one is deleted, you have access to the other. So then economic growth, so provision of jobs. So even if you are in Ghana and then you don't have any job here, once you are able to improve upon yourself, you can also get jobs out there to do it. Can it also be in Accra and it's working in Kumasi? Okay. Then security and privacy. So these softwares enhances security. So there was a time we built an application for I don't know, Ghana here. Weed is illegal, right? But then in the US, weed is something beneficial. They use it for cream and the rest. So there was this company that sells weed products, so like coffee and those things. So in there they accept that. But then if you want to order for that item, you need to be in a specific age group. So once you want to log in and order for the item, you need to show that you are above 18 years. So all these things are security. So we make sure that whoever is entering into the system is above that age range. And these things can be done by the use of these softwares. So we look at software development lifecycle. So when I look at this way back, I'll not be able to understand them. But once you start building, so sometimes way back in school, I know how to code, but then I don't know all these things. But once you go onto the job and you start coding, you start collaborating with your team members, you will know all these things. So the first one is the planning. So we set out expectation for the project timelines. So we have 4 features. We need to finish this at this point in time. We need to finish this and all that. All these things we need to plan them. Then we go to the design. So once you have the plan in place, so for instance, we want to just build an employee database management software. So we need to look at all the features that we need to do. Then we take that features and then we design them. So somebody on the team who is a user interface designer or user experience, that person will take these ideas and break them into designs. Okay, and then the implementation is where we take the design and then we transform the code. So within software development itself, we have different sets of team members. So somebody can be at the planning stage, somebody can be at the implementation stage, and we all work together to make that software a success. Then we go to the testing. So the test after building the product, making sure that everything is done, we need to test the application, we need to test the software, making sure that all the components are working well. All these things need to be done. Then we deploy it. So deployment, we look at the cloud hosting services like Amazon, we have DigitalOcean, Heroku, and the rest. We look at all this. But then when you are looking for deployment, you need to look at the programming language you used. So React or Node.js or Python can have their own way of servers that can use that. So we look at that. Then maintenance. So maintenance. Once you are done with the software, the design stage, implementation, testing, the deployment. Now, maintenance. Once you build the application, you are not done. Because there are times where once people start using it, problems here and there, people are facing a lot of challenges. You need to also look at maintaining them. So you take feedback from users and then you make sure that you make those changes. So maybe somebody brought in a software and then the user is trying to say, okay, this interaction is not done well. You as the software developer will need to take that feedback very well. Because you are not doing the software for yourself, you are doing it for others to use. So if you are doing it and those who are going to use it are not satisfied with your design, you need to go and look at it again and try and improve upon the software. So as a software development, we look at different components. So we have different set of people in charge of different components. So the first one is the front-end development. So technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So JavaScript can also be a backend, but mostly JavaScript for the front end. Then we have frameworks. So the frameworks, we have React, Angular, Vue, Node.js, and the rest. All these things are under front-end development. So the front-end development, also known as client-side. So the client-side is whatever you see. Anytime you are using a software or an application, whatever you see and interact with is the front-end. So it involves the creation of user interface and user experience of website or application. It focuses on visual aspects, ensuring that the application is visually appealing, user-friendly. So for me, I'm not a front-end developer, I'm a back-end engineer. So when you look at front-end and UI and UX, you need to have eye for designs. For me, I know I'm not good with designs, so I'll not go and do design. But then somebody who is in charge of the design can do the UI, and then myself, I'll translate the design to code. So front-end development, these are the things you should know about them. Then we have the backend. So the backend is the server-side technologies, where we have the Node.js, the Python, the Django, and the Flask. So the Python, the Django, and the Flask is the framework. So we have the Python as the programming language, but then the Django and the Flask is the framework. Then we have Ruby on Rails. So the Ruby is the programming language, and then the Rails is the framework. Then we have Java, we have C++, C#, and the rest. Then database management. So if you are a backend engineer, you have to also know how to use SQLite, Postgres, the rest. You need to all know all these things. So for instance, if you are going to design an employee database system, what are you going to do with the design? Which table has to have a foreign key in the other table, which will have primary key in another table. You need to look at all these relationships. So database. Then building robust and scalable APIs. So these days we can build a web API and then we can have the front end as well. So now one of those days where you need to fix everything together as a full stack application. But now we can build the back end separate as API, the front end separate. So once we are done, we use the API endpoint and then we link it with the front end app. So building of APIs has become instrumental in back end development. Then we have microservices architecture. So when you go to these big tech companies like Google, you have almost like thousands and millions of workers. So if you go and look at maybe the login feature, maybe a team is handling only the login feature. Then another team is handling another side of the story. So microservices helps us in breaking down all these components into different teams. So a team will be in charge of the login, another team will also be in charge of another system. And once all these people are building together, then we can make them together as a single software. So with microservices, we can use multiple programming languages. So if you are building a full stack web application or a software and you use maybe Ruby, that is the language you use. So if somebody is coming to add a new feature, that person will have to come from the same Ruby background. But with microservices, we can have like thousands of programming languages, but the same software. So you build your own part with your language, another set of people build their own, and then once we are done together, then we use the API to communicate with each other. So that is how microservices is also helping. Then security and performance. So you also have to look at security and performance. Your application, is it secured? Can someone hack into it? Of course, all applications, someone can hack into it. So all that you need to do is look at ways you can improve. You can give the hacker a problem. Maybe you can give the hacker maybe 20 days before he will hack. By that time, you have seen that trend. And then you can change your way of securing your application. So you need to secure your application well. Then full stack. So the full stack, you need to look at both the back end and the front end. So you do the front end and you do the back end. But one thing about full stack is, I went through the same trend. When you are starting as a software developer, at a point you are not part of a big tech company where some people are building front end, some people are building back end. You are on your own. So you are doing freelancing work. Somebody will come to you, I need so and so software. You don't have so much people to work with. So you need to do the full stack. So when I was trying to build myself like a freelancer, I was doing full stack because nobody is going to help me. I need to build it myself. So I do all this HTML, CSS stuff, and I do the backend as well. Of course, all these applications that are coming up to you at that stage are not very huge applications, so you can handle them. But when you go to big tech companies where you have a huge code base, then that separation is done. So as a full stack developer, is a proficient developer in broad range of technologies and possesses the skills necessary to work on both the client side and the server side. So let's look at the job market. Now, after going through all these things, you need to make yourself available for people to look to you and then hire you. Okay. The first one is building a strong portfolio. So if you are a UI designer, you have different sets of websites you can showcase your skills. So you can build your designs, maybe mobile designs, website designs, software designs, and you can host those images online for people to look at with your details. That person, if he goes there, the design is catchy, it's okay for him, that person can hire you to do some jobs for him. Then we look at showcasing projects and skills. So you need to showcase your skill set by building projects. Okay. These days, I've attended almost like 3 interviews where they don't even ask about your certificate. You go in there, nobody will ask you which school are you coming from, which certificate do you have. What they will ask you first, if you are a developer or a software engineer, they will ask you of your GitHub account. They will go there and look at all the projects you have there. If you are a designer, they will go to maybe Rebel, Figma, and then look at your designs. So you need to build and showcase your skills by using your projects. So, and then you need to also document your profile on GitHub. So if you create an account for yourself, you need to showcase all your skills, make sure every skill that you have is there, so that when somebody goes there, that person will look at it and know everything about you. Then networking and online presence. So you cannot sit in your house all alone and then be able to get a job. No. Sometimes they say some things. It's who you know that can get you the job. So if I know you and I know you are good in maybe Node.js and somebody is looking for a Node.js developer, I'll recommend you to that person and you are gone. All these jobs that I have had through my life is through somebody. Somebody know me. Oh, Les, I heard this company is looking for a Ruby developer. Are you interested? Oh yeah, okay, then link, then you are gone. These days, networking is very important. You should network. Then engaging in development community. So you need to engage in community. So programmers, I think I know of one group that is called Dev Congress. So Dev Congress is a place, it's on Slack. You can go there, programmers are there. If you are coding, if you are working and you have any problem, you post your code snippet onto the platform. Somebody somewhere have done it already. All these things that we are doing, apps, building of apps, software, they are already there, but we are trying to improve on something. So maybe you have an error, you post that error on the platform. Somebody has encountered that error before. So that person will quickly come and reply, okay, I did this way, that yeah. But sometimes you try like 3 solutions and still you have the same problem. So you need to look at different ways. Then utilizing platforms like LinkedIn and Twitter. So when you go to LinkedIn and you build your portfolio and your profile, well, you can get jobs from that side as well. Then job search strategies. So we can go online, look at these job board websites, try and then look at all these description, the details, the requirements, and if you fit into it, you can apply. Sometimes if you go there, you see 7+ years experience. Maybe you don't have 7+. Maybe they are looking for somebody who goes C++, JavaScript. These jobs, sometimes they post it there to scare people away. But try and apply. There's no harm in trying. Once you try and apply, they read your profile and they're satisfied with the call you. Then preparing for technical interviews and coding assessment. This, I don't like it. So somebody who said you apply for a job and then they send you a message, come for coding. Okay. You go there and somebody will be on your neck, code and let me see. How? Even the smartest developers, you code and somebody, it's like you are in maybe your washroom and you are eating yourself and somebody is on your neck watching. How will you feel? So when I look at the job and I realize there's a coding interview, I will not even attempt to apply. Because, and then when you go there, these things they assess you on data structures and algorithm. When you go back to school, when you are doing computer science, all these things are there. But after coming out, you start building your project, real-time project. This coding and algorithm, most of the times, you will not even use it in your daily work. So why are they trying to force you to do that? So me, when I go there and I realize that is it, then I'll tell them, no, I'm not ready for this, I can't do it. Then I go. Most developers don't like it. Because if I come for the interview, you tell me, okay, I have, let's say, a taxing system, and I want to calculate, let's say, the tax that someone needs to pay. So if you have an income of, let's say, 10,000 cedis, you are supposed to pay so and so. This is a real-time, a real-life project that in future you can build. So if you put that one to me, I know, okay, this is a real-time project, so I should be able to do it for you to see. But you tell me, go and find so and so sorting that one there. But of course, all these things you need to learn them as well. So for me, I didn't do computer science. I did a different, different course. But then I loved it when we started doing something related to programming. Then I got interested and I started building myself, trying to do self-taught coding. And here I am. So, whilst you're also building your technical skills, you need to also look at your soft skills and communication. So, you are not going to work alone. You need to look at how you communicate with your team members. If someone is trying to criticize you, what is your reaction to it? How are you going to feel if you also throw the same thing at somebody else? How are you going to feel if you are at the other end? So you need to look at that one as well. And you need to look at your presentation skills. Sometimes you are given a job as a senior developer. So the senior developer, mostly they don't really code that much, but you will be at like a leader, so that those around will be coding, coming to show you where they are, and then you look at what they have done and try and then relate well with your team members, making sure that everything is done well to have the robust software that we are looking at. So you should have effective communication skills, because definitely you talk with your team members and the rest. Then you need to highlight your soft skills during job interviews. So when you go for an interview, you need to also highlight all these soft skills, like your communication skills, how you are able to, manage a conflict. So if there's a conflict of interest in your team members, in your team, how are you going to manage them? You need to look at all these things as well. Okay. So, introduction to programming. So all these things, programming languages, Ruby, Node.js, Scala, C++, Java, JavaScript, and the rest. So example is script to calculate sales. So for example, this is a script to calculate sales. So if we have the price being equal to 20, then quantity is 2, stock is 5, and then discount is 5. How are you going to do this in order to, so if somebody is trying to buy something online, your stock level is 5, but that person is buying 10. You need to show the person you are out of stock. If the person is buying, let's say 4, that is less than your stock, then that person should have the total sales, how much the person is supposed to pay. So this thing is a real coding example. This one is more like the data structure, something. This is in real time. But if you are coding something like an e-commerce software or website, you need to do this so that if somebody is buying an item, the person will know whether it's in stock or out of stock. So as a developer, you also need to look at how you come out from the problem. So all the softwares that you have, all these things, we have to look at problems. So for example, inefficient employee record keeping can lead to data inaccuracies, hindering HR processes, and jeopardizing compliance. Streamlined record management system is crucial to ensure accurate, accessible employee information for effective reference. So Sam, a problem like this, how are you going to solve that problem? So you look at this and then you come out with your planning and all that, your designs, and making sure that you build a strong software to solve that problem. So,
I have a question. Or is it, can I ask now or later?
Okay, you can ask.
How do you go about, because it's a good question, how do you go about the initial assessment of the problem? Do you go to the organization itself? Do you go for an interview with the person that are doing it? Or are you just diving into the data, record keeping yourself to get information? How do you go about it?
Okay, very good question. So when you have a problem like this, you don't straight away go into it. You need to plan everything. So if we are looking at the employee, which information are you trying to save or record about that employee? So you need to look at all these details. Once you have them, you need to look at which data type. So data type, we have different data types. Are you trying to store a price of an item? Are you trying to store details about something and all that? So you need to look at all these things. Okay, so when you have a problem like this, you need to plan it to, otherwise, once you start, I've done it before and I realized I messed up. Once I had the problem, I started coding. At a point, I realized, no, I have to go back and follow the process. So that's why I said, when you start working, then you know all these stages. You not even know you are following the process until you are done and you realize, no, I think I followed the process. Because you planned the project, you started designing it before trying to code, and after coding, you tested the project before trying to solve the bugs and all that. So I think that's all. I'll end here. If you have any question, you can ask. So the difference between coding language and framework. So the frameworks, for example, when we look at the Python and the Django, the Python is the programming language, and the Django is the framework. So the Django helps you create a full stack Python application. Okay, so the Python itself is the programming language, but the Django helps you put the back end and the front end goes together as a single system. So you can have a Python API and have a Vue front end. You connect them. That way you have not used any framework, it's just Python and the Vue. But once you have a Python and a Django web application or software, then you have used the framework. Okay.
So what is API?
API. So the API is, so for instance, you go to a web browser, you are trying to search for let's say, a record about a user. Once you do that, the front-end application sends the request through the API endpoint to the backend. So the backend is sitting on it, the front-end is on it. But once you are trying to interact with the front-end, then it passes through the API endpoint. So it's like, let's say, those days where you have a milk can and there's some thread inside the milk can and somebody else is holding the other end. So we try speaking through this one. We're trying to think that it passes through the line to the other person. So it's like the API endpoint is like the communication between these applications.
Interface.
Yes. So
My question has to do with the job market. The whole presentation looks appealing and it's giving an edge to dive into software development. So with the introduction of new technologies like AI, now we have AI that can hold much better information than humans. So that's the narrative that's spreading. So what's the future like of the job market of software developers?
okay, so myself I use the AI. I use it. But then the problem here is if you are using the AI, you need to know what you are doing. So for instance, if you are going to, let's say, search for a definition of maybe matter, you yourself you know that you have an idea of what matter is. You go and search with the AI or whatever, and then the AI is giving you a different definition because you already know. You know that that particular information the AI is giving you is wrong, right? So you'll be able to fish out all those inaccurate data. So, for instance, I'm facing a problem. Those days, when you face a problem in your coding or error, you go to Stack Overflow and the rest. You try and search through so many websites. But these days, you can post the error on the AI, and then the AI will give you the info very fast. But once the information is there, you need to look at it. Otherwise, you go and use that AI's information and you break your whole application. Okay, so the AI cannot do everything. As I said, the software, it comes from UI, deployment, testing and all that. So AI is going to be in the job market.
So you recommend that we all dive into?
Of course, if you have the interest. Yeah, that's okay.
You said you are not in software development, you did a part of programming and you developed an interest of software. So did you attach to that, like learn the software development or you learn to
So I learned it on my own, but then as a self-taught developer, you need to have a mentor. Somebody who is already in the field and is able to guide you through. Otherwise, you go and learn left, right, center, and everything will be messed up. So you need to have somebody who guide you through.
So were you depending on the mentor or you were watching other videos and practicing how to do it?
Okay, so I learned every programming language, they have their documentation. So you go to their official website, you know all the basics. You can of course also learn on YouTube, trying to check YouTube tutorials, how they are doing their things and all that. And even if you went to computer science school, nobody is going to teach you how to combine all these things and making sure a software is in place. They can teach you the basics like the programming language, data types and all that. But you as an individual will have to build on that. Because I had someone who is doing computer science in Lagos, and then we had an interaction. I was trying to ask him some questions. It's like he doesn't have idea about that. All he has is like what he's being taught in school and all that. So you need to, even if you are in school, you need to also learn how to code yourself. Nobody will teach you that. Okay.
Okay, so I know we tech guys, we like our words, our jargons. I am a programmer, I code. Now there is a new trend, there is a no code, which I didn't hear you talk about. What is your take on no codes?
No code. Okay, that is a good question. So it's also helping us in creating solutions. But then of course, sometimes all these no code systems is designed to a certain point. Okay, you need to go, so you have your own requirements, but after using the no code solution, you realize at a point you have reached your limits, and you have to bring in the coding and clean and coming. So something like WordPress. WordPress is a framework for you to build website. You don't need any coding. But then at a certain point, you realize the WordPress team or whatever is at the limit. You cannot add different features or addition. So that one you come back to the coding again. So the no code is also helping. Of course, you cannot brush it aside. It's also
Would
helping.
you advise young ones like ourselves to
Yes.
start with no code?
Yes, of
Or to rigorously pay attention to coding properly?
course. You can also go into it. I have some people who are really into no coding. We have WordPress developers without no coding experience, but they are building websites.
The reason why I'm asking the question is then it presents an opportunity for the young ones. So that even if you're not too comfortable with coding, there is still an opportunity for you to still get into software development.
Yes. Thank you.
You know, you say something about when you are testing your code. So what methods do you think you can use to test these codes?
Okay, so testing your codes, we have different methods. So we have unit testing, we have functional testing, we have a lot. And then there's this friend of mine, he's a senior developer. I think he worked with Stripe before he resigned and came to Ghana. So he realized he has to do something for Ghana. So he came. For him, you can still do the testing. Okay, you do the unit testing and functional testing, whatever. But at the end of the day, still the user going to use it. So if you did your testing and everything is working, but the user goes and uses the application and these errors comes. So he will prefer using the user rather than doing that functional and unit testing code. But then it's beneficial for us to also use it as well.
In what ways? In what ways?
In what ways? Use the unit testing and the functional testing.
Okay, so I would also like to ask about what Ghana said. He was talking about the job market and he mentioned something about AI. And also for what I have also heard about AI and Internet of Things from documentary and research, they are promising us that in the nearby future they will come and take 60% of our jobs. And you also made mention of your work that you use AI in your work. So I want you to give us a way that we can also use this AI and also the Internet of Things, as a tool to be part of our work. Because as how the world is advancing, for instance, if I'm interested in these things and to start from scratch and see how the world is going, by the time that I'll become perfect. So if you can also give us the way that we can use this AI and the Internet of Things in our work so that we can also be useful as how the world is. Yes.
Of course. So one thing I normally do with this AI is, for instance, if I'm going to a field that I've not been there before, so something like building a software for like an industry, I go to the AI describe the problem. The AI can help me, because if you want to do that, you need to go and do research. Every software that you start, you need to do research. So you go to multiple websites trying to get all this information. Okay, and it's time consuming. But with the AI, it will help you get this information faster. So as you use the AI, you should also switch a little bit. Don't use only the AI. You need to also go back to it.
Okay, so for me, for instance, I know AI too, that when we tell a problem today, for instance, if it is a code, let's say for Raspberry or Arduino, when you tell it a code or let's say how you want the task, it can give you every details of it. And I know for sure myself, if I'm to sit and code, like the time frame and let's say the perfect result, it will be equal as the AI. So I want you to give me some of the tools. I mentioned some tools that I also use in this field.
Okay, so we have ChatGPT, we have so we have ChatGPT, we have GitHub Autopilot. That one is paid, but ChatGPT is free. Then we have Google Bard, something like that. Google Bard, you can use Google Bard, you can use ChatGPT, and then GitHub Autopilot. We have several of them.
I would say, if you want, you can also send us emails regarding your question, and then we can always answer that best of our ability, and then you're something on paper to work with. I have a question myself. I'm not going to send it. I was at the Innovation Week 3 weeks ago, I think, it was in Accra, and I was at a primary presentation, and one of the presenters, or one of the persons that was at the panel, said that we're missing, as Africans, quite a chance in using the USSD as a primary way of engaging with one another on different levels. How do you look at that?
So as I started by saying that during the COVID time we needed to release an application, but they said there's only up to that you can use. So what I would say is, as upcoming developers, we should try and also create our own story, not relying on them. When you look at Stripe, PayPal is not even working in Ghana. But then as developers, we need to also create something for ourselves and making sure that it's working, so that we don't go out there and look for all these solutions.
I would say, due to time, we need to wrap it up. So I would say everyone give a warm applause to